Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Money Means Business. My name is Ahmed Nader, and tonight we are going to focus on the future of Egypt in the new republic following the holding of the upcoming presidential elections of 2024, which will be held on Sunday and until Tuesday. On the 10th, the 11th, and the 12th of December inside Egypt, as the expatriates had already voted in the presidential elections over the past week, awaiting, of course, the participation of the Egyptians within Egypt and the results to be following soon after. So we'll be showing more about the economic developments and the economic challenges that will be awaiting the next president for Egypt in the new year. All this and more during the course of the episode of Money Means Business. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're still watching Money Means Business, and I am honored tonight to be having with me in the studio over the course of the episode is Engineer Muhammad Azem, the international expert in development and in technology as well. Engineer Muhammad Azem, thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Always pleasure and honor being with you. Thank you.
The pleasure is all mine. Of course, we are at a very important point in the history of modern Egypt, as we are looking forward to the achievements that will be held, the challenges that will be facing the next president of Egypt in the new republic. But let's take a quick look at what happened over the past few years, especially with the COVID-19 pandemic all over the world, with the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, and nowadays with the aggression of Israel against Palestine and more specifically against Gaza. How did you see the response of the Egyptian state, of the political leadership, economically towards those crises?
Actually, Egypt started with the Vision 2030.
Yes.
Which it was a very important step to have a vision for the coming years. And most of the the governments are building holistic approach for having a resilient economic system. And this is what happened in Egypt over the last 10 years. Because we survived COVID-19 and we survived the consequences of Ukrainian-Russian conflict in Eastern Europe, and of course now we are facing another challenge, which the aggression of Israeli forces against Palestinians in Gaza Strip. So without having such a holistic approach, without having a bigger picture in mind, without having how to connect dots between the different elements that covering your economic sectors all together, and have a holistic approach for building a resilient economy, because resilience actually is becoming one of, or actually the most important fundamental aspect in building an economy and even a society. And we witness the importance of having the concept of resilience in
Yes.
our activities when we had the pandemic back in March 2020, because most of the government forgot about the concept of resilience actually before the pandemic. That's why the pandemic represented unthinkable crisis. And of course Egypt survived, and even the Egyptian economy witnessed a growth of almost 3.5% or more during the pandemic year and the year after. That shows that the economic reform was fundamental for such progression on the economic level, and you were able to have a swift recovery from the consequences of COVID-19. And of course the whole world was hit by another crisis, which is the conflict in East Europe, and of course this disrupted the whole ecosystem, the whole economic ecosystem all over the world. And definitely having resilient economy, having resilient mechanism to be able to absorb shocks and to have a swift recovery was also another important vehicle to cope with such crises that the world haven't witnessed over the last 70 or 80 years. Maybe since the Second Great War back in the late 1930s and early 1940s. So the world is becoming very dynamic. We are connected to a point with no return, and of course this notion or this kind of building a resilient system is one of the most critical aspects that we need to look at today and tomorrow, of course.
Yes, Engineer Muhammad Azam, you've mentioned that we have a resilient economic system here in Egypt, and those statements were echoed by the head of the International Monetary Fund as well, Kristalina Georgieva, in the past days, speaking about the resilience of the Egyptian economy over the past few years, and more specifically over the past few months with the aggression and the conflicts that are taking place in Palestine from the Israeli occupation army towards Gaza and Palestine. So how does this shape the future economically for Egypt, and more specifically as we have had a lot of loans coming from the International Monetary Fund, from the World Bank, from different institutions? What does this say about the strength of the Egyptian economy for the future?
For the future, actually, because you started a very ambitious plan for having a robust economy based on the Vision 2030. And you are building what's called the pyramid of competitiveness, because competitiveness actually is the name of the game. It's a matter of survival in today's market.
Yes.
And the base of such pyramid is the public policy that actually promotes and help the growth of both economic system and the technology development system. This is what will give you a sustainable development today and tomorrow as well. So it's very important to build the base of the pyramid based on public policies that can see the future, can the public policies that can understand the role of economic development coupled with the technology development, because actually you cannot sustain your economic development without employing technology, and of course by using the technology and of course having or owning the technology, this will make the difference. This will make you among the top 20 countries by 2030, and
Yes.
of course this is the ultimate goal of the Vision 2030, to become among the top 20 economies. So that's why you are seeing investment in infrastructure. Infrastructure is not only about roads. Infrastructure now is considering the re-innovation and the modernization of your sea and airports, the logistics hubs, and investment in universities. Universities is becoming part of the infrastructure.
Yes.
R&D institutions becoming part of the infrastructure. And we've seen a lot of national universities, and we've seen that all the new universities are based on the collaboration between international universities and the local universities, which is very important to have a sort of knowledge transfer, because knowledge transfer is actually is the cornerstone of grabbing the knowledge, of acquiring the knowledge needed towards having your own technology and employ your own technology in a format of products and services that meets the taste of the international market, because
Yes.
the competition is quite open, and of course the competition is becoming more severe, and the more gap between you and your competitors by owning this technology, this will make the difference. This will make you able to export your products and services at premium prices, and which means more profitability. And of course, more profitability means more projects, more opportunities for job creation, especially for youth and women, more social and economic empowerment for the base of the pyramid, and so on and so forth.
Yes. How would you assess the developments of Egypt in two main specific fields that we have witnessed and we have touched as citizens here in the country, especially over the past couple of years? The food security following the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, and the energy security as well, because we have had a lot of problems regarding securing the energy needs. As you mentioned, we have had a lot of investments in the infrastructure for energy ever since the election of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in 2014. But as we are looking for the future now, how do you think we could be keeping up with what is going on nowadays in the world for the future of the country and the citizens?
Of course, food security and energy security is becoming a great concern to many countries all over the world.
Yes.
Because without energy, you cannot develop. Energy is a source of development. You cannot have more factories, more manufacturing plants, more economic activities without having energy. And the beauty here, and you are now have a mixture of energy. You have a great mix of energy. Renewable energy is becoming like almost 30% of your mix today. Which is more sustainable, more environmental friendly source of energy, and of course you are trying to have this sort of diversification among your energy resources. We've seen the largest solar plant in Aswan. We've seen energy coming from wind, energy coming from, we mentioned solar energy, wind, natural gas, and now Egypt will play a great role in the domain of the green hydrogen. Because this is the future actually of energy all over the world. We've seen this during COP27, and of course during COP28, and Egypt is actually becoming one of the regional players in the domain of hydrogen. We've seen a lot of investment in this regard. We've seen a lot of projects are taking place in Suez Canal economic, especially economic zone for the green hydrogen projects, and because actually the green hydrogen will reshape the future of energy in the near future. Actually, it's more sustainable, it's more environmental friendly, it's more the economy of the hydrogen is really a great thing, and it's really very economic to most of the economic activities that are taking place. So energy, of course, we are becoming a regional player in this regard. When it comes to food security, of course, one of the lessons learned from Ukrainian crisis, and the lessons learned even before the Ukrainian crisis from COVID-19, food security and the disruption happened in the supply chain with respect to food, give many countries overall a great alert that we need to build a resilient agriculture ecosystem within the country. And we've seen this with the greenhouses project. We've seen this about the modernization of the agriculture sector. We've seen this in many projects like the new countryside or new Reef al-Masr, the new Egyptian countryside project, having cultivated millions of fadans in different areas around the country, which will give you not only a sort of food security, but also will help you to have a better urban development and rural development as well, having new communities absorb the increase of the population, having focused new kind of economy that based on agriculture, which is required all over the world, not only in the country, but all over the world. You can have so many projects for having more value addition, like not only selling fresh produce, but also have a sort of processing to have a better value that will cater the requirements of the regional international markets. So it's all connected actually.
Yes, all connected. And in previous episodes, through different programs, we have spoken about the digital transformation. What is the importance of having hand in hand the green economy transformation, the blue economy, the green energy, as you've mentioned, we have spoken a lot about during the COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, during the COP28 in Dubai. What is the importance for Egypt, for the future, to be having both hand in hand, the green economy transformation and the digital transformation, especially for the finances and the economic situations?
Of course, I'm very biased for the technology,
Yes.
the high-tech economic sector in Egypt, because actually we are witnessing progress every year in this very important economic domain.
Yes.
The sector by itself is growing at 17% every year, which is a remarkable figure, double-digit figure. Development, this is not an easy task. And this sector is now contributing to almost 5% of the GDP, and actually is contributing to almost $5 billion US exports. Now we have a new breed of high-tech companies that we have like 3 unicorns. One of them listed in Nasdaq, one of them listed in New York stock, and another one was able to attract like 340 million investment over the last few months. So this sector is progressing and developing by itself, and as well as it's the core, it's the locomotive for developing any other social and economic sector. If you need to have a sort of development in manufacturing sector or industrial sector, you need to employ technology. If you need to have a development in your healthcare system, you need to employ technology. If you need to help the agri sector to grow, you need to have technology. And we are now seeing so many startups providing or offering great high-tech solutions, especially in the manufacturing domain, actually we are seeing a lot of Egyptian startups are doing great in agri-tech business and in health tech business, because actually without food, without health, this would give you a hard time to become a resilient society and as well as a resilient economy.
Yes, Engineer Muhammad Azam, you've mentioned a very important point, which is we need to be encouraging investors to be pumping money and putting into potential economic powerhouses like the green economy, like the digital transformation, something for the future, something that is built for the benefit of the environment, of the climate in general, and for the economy of Egypt in specific. But on the other hand, can you see that this is working for the other mega economies like the United States and China, that they are trying to be driving like the electrical cars, for example? Do you think that this is working out there and we can be replicating the same scenario here, or is it not working outside of Egypt, but we have to take the step nonetheless?
We have to take the step actually, because as I said before, owning the technology is what will make the difference.
Yes.
If you look at the largest economy of the world, United States, like 29 trillion US dollar economy, you can find the high-tech companies representing like 11% of such economy.
Yes.
If you look at China, actually they are like 13% of the GDP coming from high-tech companies. We see high-tech companies valuated at 3 trillion US dollars. And in China and in the US, you can find companies that are valuated more than 1 trillion US dollars,
Yes.
because they are working in high tech, and they are not only working in high tech, but by owning this high tech, actually they would change the landscape of the economy. And because everyone is using their technology, they are able to export their technology, they have premium prices for the technology, and everyone on the planet are using such technology. So only the technology is what would make the difference here. We need to have our own model, of course, and we need to invest more in R&D. Because R&D is the base for owning the technology. We need to invest more in knowledge transfer programs. By knowledge transfer, you would acquire the required knowledge to build new high-tech applications. Of course, we need to have a place or a footprint in the domain of artificial intelligence, because
Yes.
artificial intelligence will add like 15 trillion US dollar to the global economy by 2030. And of course, this is a very advanced domain, and we have brains, we have great startups in this domain. We need to focus on artificial intelligence, we need to focus on the application of artificial intelligence, because it will touch every single economic sector all over the world.
Yes, over the past 9 years, for example, under the tenure of President Al-Sisi, and we could be having a comparison with the upcoming president or the upcoming tenure for the new president in 2024 as well. The unemployment rate, how do you think the unemployment rate has decreased, and do you think we could be making bigger steps, better steps in this field through localizing industries or not?
Definitely, because actually we've seen the figures of unemployment, of course, has decreased over the last few years due to the size of mega projects that the country is actually implementing nowadays. However, I'm a believer of the role of small and medium enterprises.
Yes.
Because they are the main driver for employment in Egypt and all over the world. Actually, and they are representing like 40% of the global economy, and
Yes.
representing 50% of employment all over the world. But having small and medium enterprises slowly, actually, without integrating them within a cluster, to have a role within a bigger value chain. This is the only way to help small and medium enterprises to grow. And to export their product and services, and to be able to absorb the shocks during the international crisis like COVID-19 in 2020 or the Ukrainian crisis in 2022. So we need to cluster small and Indian enterprises and to embed them within a larger value chain, because this is very important to help them to become more sustainable, to help them to become more able to progress, more able to expand their business locally, regionally, and internationally, which will reflect in more investment, which will reflect in more opportunities for many segments across the country to be employed within the small and medium enterprises. And definitely you cannot work with the small and medium enterprises alone, as well as you cannot work with mega companies alone. That's why the clustering concept is very important. The integration between the different economic activities is very important, and this would give an opportunity and a window for better and more resilient economy, by the way.
For the small and medium enterprises, we have seen over the past few years the development and the steps that were made by the government to be achieving higher rates, bigger numbers of potential entrepreneurs in the small and medium enterprises. But do you think, on the other hand, finance is there through the banks and through different outlets as well? On the other hand, the potential entrepreneurs, do they have the courage, do they have the ideas to be coping with what we need on the markets here in Egypt?
I think we need more development. If you're talking about the future, we need more development to have better quality ideas that could be implemented. Of course, this would give a window for such startups, for small and medium enterprises to attract more investment. And I think we don't have now the problem of funding.
Yes.
The finance issue has been solved maybe like 5 or 6 years ago. The banks are more flexible to have very specific financial products for small and medium enterprises. We have MISMIDA, the governmental agency that also providing such support, financial and non-financial support for small and medium enterprises. Very low interest rate coupled with technical support, because one of the great things that would help small and medium enterprises are not only giving them finance, but also help them to know how to grow a business, how to run a business, how to have a sort of financial skills to manage your portfolio. How, when I get equity as an investment, when I get a loan instead of equity, how I'm going to evaluate my company, how I would have the proper structure for my company from the early beginning to be designed to grow, not based on the current situation or the current circumstances. We need to help them to understand that if you would be able to grow, you need to have a different mindset. You need to have a different structure. You need to have different sort of partnership. How we need to help them how to manage their stakeholders, like the government, the banks, the financial institution, the international corporates, international donors, the clients themselves. So actually now we have another holistic approach to reshape the business throughout having robust, sound, quality-based small and medium enterprises that are considering the environment as well. They are working in fresh green domains, especially the environment tech would help them to open a new horizon, a new vista for innovation in this regards. And there's a room also for such mainly small and medium enterprises and startup to have a say in this regard. And definitely they would be, if they have quality idea, quality product, definitely they would be able to attract another type of quality investment that we need in Egypt nowadays and definitely in the future.
Yes, and speaking of the small and medium enterprises and the economic enterprises in general here in Egypt, how would you see the importance of the projects that we have had over the past 9 years in the field of infrastructure? Because this will be leading to be gaining more results, bigger results, a more resilient economy for the upcoming years in the country.
Definitely, without having infrastructure, you wouldn't be able to have an economy. And that's one of the concerns actually brought by President Biden in the United States, because he saw that the U.S. is lacking competitiveness because they have outdated infrastructure. This is the largest economy of the world. And now, without having the proper infrastructure, without having modern sea and airports, without having modern logistics hubs, without be able to have e-commerce platforms, e-payment facilities, without having the legal framework that in favor of new ideas, in favor of innovation, without having universities that are producing knowledge and they are helping startups and helping the industry to become more competitive throughout utilization of better technology, more advanced technology, this goal would be very hard to realize. That's why we are now considering as experts, infrastructure is not only roads, is not only bridges, is not only sea and airports, but also that includes ICT infrastructure, which is progressing at very great pace in Egypt.
Yes. How would you assess the steps made in this field, to be specific, investing in the infrastructure for technology, the digital transformation for the future? How much have we had investments in this field?
Billions and billions of US dollars, actually, because, and it's ongoing process, by the way.
Yes.
Because the technology, when the technology evolves, the other technologies would be outdated. That's why if you invest today, you need to invest tomorrow as well.
Yes.
But you don't have the option to use outdated technology. If now we are, for example, we are now using 4G mobile networks. If the 5G becomes the standard, you need to switch to 5G. You need to invest in more high-speed internet to houses and small offices. You need to invest in having data centers to cater the information that you are producing every single day. You need to invest in modernizing the processes and the procedures of government and all the services from government to government, or government to business, or government to citizen. You need to avail more instrument for financial inclusion, and of course we are witnessing growth in this regard as well. And now we can, almost 40% of Egyptians are using mobile wallets, which is very easy to use instrument for payment, or for payment and receiving payment as well. The financial inclusion actually reached almost 60% now. Actually, this figure was 30% 10 years ago. So you are working in different domains and according to different angles, but all connected. This is the most important thing, because you cannot progress in one domain without progressing on the other domain at the same pace. And of course, you need to utilize the technology to the maximum in every single economic and social sector. That's including healthcare sector, education sector, manufacturing or industrial sector, agriculture sector, trade sector. You need to invest in e-commerce, and actually e-commerce as well is Egypt is considered one of the most growing e-commerce markets all over the world. We have like 50 million Egyptians using e-commerce platforms, spending like 10 billion US dollars each year. So you need to invest in smart logistics systems. You need to have a sort of connected clusters, because if you build a cluster based on the natural competitive edge in one region, you need to connect this cluster with another cluster within the country. Connected cluster also will boost your economic and social and urban development in Egypt in the coming few years. So that's why it's a holistic approach. That's why you can find maybe fragmented efforts from your perspective. However, if you see behind the scenes, all things are connected, because every single aspect will impact the other aspect when it comes to social, economic, and urban development.
Yes, everything is connected, especially for the people living outside of Egypt who could be potential investors into the country. How do you think the potential investors, people living outside of Egypt, are seeing all those statistics and steps and everything that is going on in terms of economic development here in the country as a sign that we could be entering the market and pumping more money, bigger amounts of money into the economy?
Actually, if you see the international reports by the World Bank, the IMF, the World Economic Forum, and you see the progression of the economy in Egypt, and again, technology is helping you to boost your competitiveness indices.
Yes.
And of course, using the technology is becoming actually cross-cutting all competitiveness pillars. That's including the ability to even having better skills with respect to technology, and of course again artificial intelligence is altering the skill set that we need. Maybe last year you never asked someone how you prompt AI agent to ask a question. Now it would be mandatory for you, or would be a basic skill that how to ask the AI agent for something to get the right results.
Yes.
So this is a totally, we are living in a totally different era actually, and the future starts with what we are doing today.
Yes, and what we are doing today, we are focusing as well on tourism, as we will be having the Grand Egyptian Museum inauguration in the next year or so. How do you see the importance of activating tourism in the country, especially that a lot of people outside of Egypt, outside of the Middle East, seeing what is happening through the conflict between Israel and Palestine, through the aggression going on from the occupation forces from Israel against Gaza, as a sign that we should not be going to the Middle East altogether. We should not be going to Egypt in specific, as it is on the border with Gaza, to be accurate. So what can we do, what can we say for the outside world to be giving a message of peace and security and stability about Egypt for the entire world to be coming and visiting as things are normal here?
We need to give the right message because there is totally what's happening in Gaza is very far from the touristic attractions in Egypt. That's why you need to give the right message. You need to utilize your all channels to promote that Egypt is quite safe. And Egypt is one of a kind when it comes to tourism.
Yes.
Our heritage is actually, and beside the leisure tourism that across the Red Sea and the North Mediterranean, the northern coast of Egypt is totally well equipped, and we are providing the right facilities to tourists, and we are giving a friendly environment for tourists to come to Egypt. And of course, tourism is one of the main revenue sources for Egypt for now and in the past, and now and in the future. And we are witnessing the development of very important sector. And of course, we need to work more and more, and with the opening of the Grand Museum, which will be one of a kind all over the world, this will add to the Egyptian industry or the tourism industry here in Egypt. And of course, this will open new vista for the quality and the quantity of tourists coming to Egypt. And hopefully, the conflict in Gaza will be resolved soon, and we restore peace in our region, and for having more economic room for more economic development for the sake of having a better life for the Egyptians and having a prosperous country.
Yes, and finally, Engineer Mohammed Azem, as we are entering the first hours or the beginning of Sunday, which is the first day for the presidential elections here in Egypt, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, the 10th, the 11th, and the 12th of December. What is your message for the Egyptian citizens to be participating in the Egyptian elections? And how would you see the future of Egypt economically and politically following the elections?
I'm asking everyone to participate his or her right for voting. Please go and vote and practice your right and make the right choice. Egypt is very promising, and Egypt is actually is growing at a pace that we haven't witnessed for many years. Egypt is building a new country in all aspects to become one of the great countries among the world, and becoming a leading country among the top 20 countries, because it deserves actually this and even better than this. So make your decision as a voter. Please go. Personally, I will go tomorrow, inshallah, and to practice my right to vote, to have a better Egypt for my kids and for my grandkids eventually.
Yes, Engineer Mohammed Azem, the international expert in development and technology. Thank you very much for being with us tonight on Money Means Business.
All pleasure and honor. Thank you.
Anytime. And this brings us to the end of Money Means Business for this week. I will be leaving you, however, with the latest economic updates and technological updates, as well as Egypt launched the EGSAT-2 from China a couple of days ago. We'll be having more details regarding such a gigantic step in terms of technology and the space as well for Egypt. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.